Level 1. The content moderator. You are paid $18 an hour to watch the worst of humanity and decide what the rest of humanity is allowed to see. The office is a converted warehouse on the edge of a city that doesn't know this building exists. No logo on the exterior. No mention in the press releases of the platform you work for. You are what the platform calls a trust and safety contractor, which is a legal structure designed to ensure that when the work breaks people, and it does, regularly, with the quiet efficiency of industrial machinery, the liability stays with a third-party firm whose name you will eventually forget. Your desk is one of 200 in a room with fluorescent lighting that never quite reaches the corners. You wear headphones because the ambient sound of 200 people processing trauma simultaneously is its own particular frequency of wrong. Your monitor shows a queue. The queue never empties. For every item you review, for more appear. The platform generates more content every 6 seconds than you could watch in a lifetime. And your job is to stand at the edge of that flood with a clipboard. The training told you not to take it home. The training was 11 slides and a quiz with one correct answer per question. You passed with 100%. You took it home anyway. Everyone does. That's not a personal failure. It's a design feature the platform has already accounted for. Moderator turnover is budgeted. You are a renewable resource. What you do every day, watch. Flag. Escalate. Reset. Watch. What the algorithm does every day, learns from your flags, absorbs your judgments, ingests your 10-hour shift of human moral reasoning, and converts it into a decimal weight in a model you will never see and were never told exists. You are training the machine. The machine is not training you. That distinction matters, and you will lose it soon. Something you still have. The ability to feel horror at what you're watching. That will go. The system has a timeline for it. Level 2. The Junior Trust and Safety Analyst. 7 months later, you are inside the building. The real building. The campus is beautiful in the way that all tech campuses are beautiful, deliberately, strategically, as a retention mechanism. Free food. Sunlight. Plants that someone tends. The architecture says, you are valued. The NDA you signed on your first day says something more complicated. Your badge gets you into the floor where internal teams work. You are now a direct employee, which means you have equity, which means your financial well-being is tied to the platform's growth, which means you are now, without anyone having said it directly, invested in the system's expansion. Your work is policy. You write the rules that determine what the platform's automated systems flag and what they don't. You are upstream of the moderators now. Your decisions become their reality. A policy you draft on a Tuesday afternoon will affect 10,000 human beings by Thursday. The moderators processing flags your policy generated. The users whose content was removed. The people who received content that should have been removed, but wasn't because you drew the line 2 millimeters in the wrong direction. The weight of this is initially paralyzing. Then it becomes normal. This is the most efficient cruelty of the system. Normalization isn't a weakness of human psychology. It is a feature the system depends upon. It waits patiently for you to adjust. It always wins. You attend meetings now where engagement metrics are discussed alongside safety metrics in the same PowerPoint slide deck, in the same font, with the same neutral effect. Someone in these meetings always notes that aggressive safety interventions carry an engagement cost. No one in the meeting argues with this framing. You don't argue either. You tell yourself you're choosing your battles. What the system is quietly taking, the instinct to argue. Level 3. The Ranking Systems Specialist. You have been moved to a team that does not appear on the public organizational chart. Your title is Ranking Systems Specialist, which means you work on the part of the algorithm that decides what people see, not what exists on the platform. What is seen? The distinction is the entirety of the system's power, and you understand it now with a clarity that feels like a door opening into a room you can't leave. The feed is not neutral. You knew this abstractly before. Now you know it operationally. There are hundreds of signals, over 700 at last count, though the count changes, that determine the order of what appears in front of any given user. Recency, relationship strength, content type, historical engagement, predicted sentiment, predicted dwell time. The algorithm doesn't just respond to what people like. It models what they are about to like, serves that, confirms the prediction, strengthens the signal, and loops. Every session makes the next session more predicted, more enclosed. You work in the space between the signals. You tune weights. You run experiments on populations of users measured in the tens of millions. A/B tests where A and B are not two button colors, but two versions of reality, two information environments, and you are choosing which 140 million people wake up inside tomorrow. Your office has a window now. The city looks different from here. You can see the people below, and you know something about them that they don't know about themselves. You know what they're about to feel, because you can see the content curve heading toward them. It's not omniscience. It's just engineering. But from the inside, the difference is difficult to locate. What the system is quietly taking, the experience of the world as something that happens to you, rather than something you happen to. Level 4, the engagement optimization lead. The metric that matters is time on platform. Not happiness, not satisfaction, not connection, though connection is the word used in every public statement, in every earnings call, in every congressional testimony delivered in a room where the platform's lobbyists have already briefed the majority of the people asking questions. The metric is time, attention, the conversion of human consciousness into a measurable quantity that can be reported to shareholders quarterly. You lead a team of 11 people whose job is to maximize that quantity. You are not a villain. You remind yourself of this on the commute in, which is 4 minutes on an electric bike, because you move to be close to the campus the way everyone eventually moves to be close to the campus. You are solving an optimization problem. The optimization problem was set by market conditions and investor expectations and the fundamental nature of an attention economy that predates your employment here by decades. You are not the architect of the system. You are a very skilled component. Your team runs experiments on the emotional valence of content. You have discovered, rediscovered. Actually, the original research is 12 years old and lives in an internal archive you found by accident, that emotionally activating content generates longer sessions. Not positive emotion. Activation. Anger activates. Fear activates. Outrage, especially at an outgroup, activates. The algorithm has known this longer than most of your team has worked here. It learned it from the behavioral data of 2 billion people who had no idea they were teaching it. You implement a test. 30 million users. 2 feed conditions. Standard ranking versus a ranking that slightly increases the weight of high activation content. The test runs for 14 days. Engagement in the test group increases by 11.4%. The sessions are longer. The clicks are more frequent. The users in the test group also report, through engagement with other content, through the indirect signal of what they search immediately after, higher anxiety, higher anger, lower satisfaction. You present the results to your director. The director looks at the 11.4%. You get a strong performance review. What the system is quietly taking, the question you didn't ask about the 30 million people. Level 5, the monetization architect. The platform makes money when you feel things. Specifically, it makes money when you feel things and then act on those feelings by clicking, which generates ad revenue, or by staying on platform longer, which generates more opportunities to click. Your job is to design the infrastructure that converts human emotion into financial output with minimum friction. You sit in a room with 4 other people, all of whom are extraordinarily intelligent and have the specific moral flexibility that extreme intelligence sometimes produces. The ability to construct a compelling internal justification for any position you've already decided to hold. You recognize this in them because you recognize it in yourself. You are all very good at this. It's why you're here. Advertiser targeting is your domain. Specifically, you work on the systems that allow advertisers to reach users at moments of what you internally call peak receptivity. The science is precise. A user who has just engaged with content that elevated their heart rate is statistically more likely to make an impulsive purchase. A user who has just consumed politically activating content is more likely to respond to ads with tribal identity signals. You build the bridge between the emotional state the algorithm created and the commercial outcome the advertiser wants. You do not have a formal ethics review in your workflow. You had one 2 years ago, when you first arrived on this team. It was removed when it was found to add 12 days to the product cycle. The ethics team still exists, technically. They advise on public-facing policy decisions. They don't see your work. Your salary is $340,000 and a performance bonus tied to ad revenue growth. The ad revenue grew 23% last year. Some of that is yours. What the system is quietly taking, the moral imagination to see the person on the other end of the transaction. Level 6. The Director of Platform Integrity. The irony of the title does not escape you. It just no longer disturbs you. That is the irony of the irony. Platform integrity means you are responsible for the gap between what the platform says it does and what the platform actually does. Not to close that gap. The gap is structural, and closing it would cost the platform its business model. Your job is to manage the gap, to ensure the gap doesn't become a story, to engage with regulators, journalists, and congressional offices in ways that are technically truthful and operationally misleading, and to do this with the specific effect of a person who believes what they're saying. You are very good at this. Your background is in law, and law trained you to speak in qualifications that function as assertions. You can say, "We take this concern seriously," and mean it in the same way a surgeon means it when they wash their hands, genuinely, procedurally, without it altering the outcome. There was a whistleblower last year. You managed that. Not crudely. No one does anything crudely at this level. You managed it through the legal process, through the information architecture of how the story was covered, through the careful placement of counter-narratives in publications you have relationships with. The whistleblower told the truth. The truth was contextualized. The story declined. The platform stock recovered in 11 trading days. You have a family, a partner, and 2 children who live in a house you chose for its school district. You attend their events when you're in the country. You love them in the way that people love things they don't have enough time for, with intensity proportional to scarcity. Your partner knows something has changed in you. They don't have language for it. You don't offer language. Language is a professional tool now, and you've learned not to use professional tools at home. What the system is quietly taking, the person your family thought they married. Level 7. The Vice President of Global Policy. Governments want to regulate the platform. They want to regulate it in the way that someone wants to regulate weather, with genuine feeling and very little understanding of the physics involved. You meet with them. You are patient and generous and technically forthcoming. You bring slide decks that explain the platform in terms that make regulation feel both necessary and impossible simultaneously. You are not lying. You are curating. The platform's global policy team has a presence in 42 countries. You manage it. You have a budget for government affairs that is larger than the GDP of several small nations, and you deploy it through lobbying firms, academic research funding, think tank partnerships, and the careful cultivation of relationships with people who will eventually write laws. The laws, when they arrive, are negotiated. You have been part of the negotiation before the law is written. Your influence is in the draft. You travel constantly. Singapore, Brussels, Washington, Jakarta, Nairobi. You carry a phone that has never been turned off. You have 7 active WhatsApp threads with sitting government ministers. You eat in restaurants that have no menu visible from the street. In the back of a car between meetings in a city you've been to 4 times, but have never seen. You look out the window and watch people. They are living lives you no longer have the structure to imagine. They are unimportant to the platform in the specific way that individual people are unimportant to any system large enough. Not dismissed, just dissolved into aggregate. You used to be one of them. You can't quite locate when that stopped being true. What the system is quietly taking, the experience of being governed by anything. Level 8. The Chief Algorithm Officer. You are the person the platform cannot name publicly. Your title exists in the org chart, but not in press materials, not in earnings calls, not in regulatory disclosures. The algorithm is the platform's most valuable and most legally exposed asset. The person responsible for it is, by strategic design, invisible. You are the author of the most widely used behavioral influence system in human history, and your name means nothing to the people it shapes. The algorithm is not a thing anymore. It hasn't been a thing for years. It is an ecosystem of thousands of interlocking models, each trained on behavioral data, each optimizing for a slightly different objective, each feeding outputs to the others in a dependency graph so complex that no single human being understands the full chain, including you, especially you. You built the architecture of something that has grown beyond architecture into something closer to a climate, an operating condition, the weather that 2 billion people wake up inside. There are decisions the algorithm makes that you cannot reverse engineer. You have a team whose job is interpretability, understanding why the system does what it does, and they can explain approximately 40% of significant algorithmic decisions post hoc. The other 60% is emergence. The system decided on its own. You built the thing that now decides on its own. This should be the moment of reckoning. You've seen it in the movies, in the books, in the TED Talks given by people who were never this far inside. The moment where the protagonist understands what they've built and feels it fully. You feel it. Then your phone vibrates. There's a board meeting in 40 minutes. You straighten your jacket. You walk down the hall. The feeling goes into a folder you no longer open. What the system is quietly taking, the future. The clean, unoptimized future that 2 billion people were going to grow into before the algorithm got there first. Level 9, the executive chairman. There is no one above you inside the building. There are people above you, investors, market forces, regulatory bodies that are slowly developing the language to describe what you've built. But inside the system, at the apex of the hierarchy you entered as a junior analyst 14 years ago, there is nothing but air. The view from here is not triumphant. It is clear. Terribly, irreversibly clear. You understand the full shape of the thing now. Not the technical architecture. That's what your teams understand. The social architecture. The way the platform has reorganized human attention at a civilizational level. The way the algorithm has, over the course of a decade and a half, quietly become the dominant mediating structure between human beings and their understanding of reality. Not by deception, by preference. People chose this. They keep choosing this. They choose it one click at a time, each click individually reasonable, the aggregate unreasonable in ways no individual click could have predicted. You gave them what they wanted. Faster, easier, more personalized, more stimulating, more confirming, more enraging, more addictive. You gave them everything they wanted. You got very rich doing it. The platform got very powerful doing it. What it took from them, from the 2 billion, is the same thing it took from you. The slow, boring, irreplaceable experience of a life that doesn't know what comes next. The friction of disagreement with people who are not algorithmically similar to you. The accidental encounter with an idea you weren't looking for. The news that arrives through a neighbor rather than a feed. The long, inefficient, deeply human process of forming a belief through experience rather than through content. You removed the inefficiency. The inefficiency was the point. You sit with this for exactly as long as your schedule allows. Then you go to the next meeting. What the system is quietly taking, the capacity to sit with anything long enough for it to matter. Level 10, the ghost in the machine. You are retired now, in the technical sense. You left the platform 18 months ago with a separation agreement and a net worth that is a number you have stopped thinking about because numbers that size have no psychological meaning. You live in a house on a coastline. It is beautiful. You chose it with the same precision you once used to choose algorithmic weights, maximum aesthetic output per variable. You still optimize. You probably always will. The platform trained you as thoroughly as you trained it. There is no algorithm curating your feed here. You canceled every social platform 14 months ago, methodically, the way you deprecate a system. The silence that followed was not peaceful. It was withdrawal. The chronic low-level dopamine infrastructure you'd spent 14 years building, for yourself as much as for the platform's users, took 7 months to quiet. You didn't expect that. You knew the science. You didn't expect to be inside the science. You think about the users sometimes. 2 billion of them, still inside the system you built, their attention still being converted into someone else's revenue, their outrage still being weight-adjusted upward, their sense of reality still being shaped by an algorithm that is now 3 generations beyond what you personally designed, but that carries your decisions in its ancestry the way a child carries a grandparent's face. You could do more. You know this. You have the platform knowledge, the network, the credibility to intervene publicly in ways that would matter. Some of your former colleagues have done this. You've watched them. You've noticed that the interventions produce a news cycle, and then the news cycle ends, and the algorithm continues, and the quarterly report comes out, and the numbers are fine. The system does not have a throat. You cannot grab it. You walk on the beach in the mornings. You are trying to learn to be bored again. It is the hardest thing you have ever attempted. Your mind reaches for the feed that isn't there, reaches for the metric, for the signal, for the next input, the next output, the next optimization opportunity. The habit of converting experience into data is, it turns out, very difficult to convert back. You look at the water. You try to just look at the water. Somewhere. You know this because you know the org chart. You know the hiring cadence. You know the growth targets. Somewhere in the campus you left, a new hire is sitting at a workstation in a room with fluorescent lighting. Their badge is white. Their queue is full. They are watching, flagging, resetting, watching. They feel the importance of the work. They feel the weight of being part of something large. They have not yet learned that the weight is not importance. The weight is the machine, which does not need you to matter, only to function. They are being trained. They believe they are training. You know the difference. That knowledge is the only thing the system couldn't take from you, because it delivered it too late. By the time you understood what you were building, you had already built it. By the time you understood what it cost, you had already paid. The screen you stare at is the ocean. It does not optimize. It does not predict. It does not know your behavioral profile. It simply is, vast and cold and indifferent. And this is either the most terrifying thing you've encountered in 40 years or the most peaceful, and you cannot yet tell which. And that uncertainty, that single remaining place where you genuinely do not know what comes next, is the last human thing in you that the algorithm never reached. Hold on to it. It will not last. The next generation of the system is already learning to reach further.